This is CBS 2 News at 4.
Breaking right now at 4, Alderman Ed Burke, once one of Chicago's most powerful politicians, sentenced to 2 years in prison and fined $2 million. The sentence handed down about 30 minutes ago for racketeering, bribery, and attempted extortion. He will be required to report to prison on September 23rd.
CBS 2's political reporter Chris Tye was in the courtroom as that verdict was read. Chris, explain to us what that moment was like and what Burke's reaction was.
Boy, this was a 6-hour affair, Jim and Marie. We did not expect it to go this long, but there was a lot to weed through. We heard a lot from the U.S. attorney. We heard a lot from Burke's team. On one side, you had Burke's team arguing this is a man who is 80 years old. He's never going to hold elected office again. He's no longer a lawyer. He is not someone who is a threat to society. It should be home confinement. On the other side of the coin, the U.S. attorney's office saying 10 years is what he should be put away for. The judge really grappled with this, and in the end, here is what Judge Virginia Kendall came back with. Ed Burke will be put away for 24 months. He's also going to be fined $2 million, which in cases like this is very rare. Kendall says she's never assessed a fine like this for a crime like this. 1 year supervised release is also what Ed Burke is awaiting. He has to report on September the 23rd. The question is, where will he go? His team asking for a facility known as Oxford up in Wisconsin. That is a lighter type of federal facility. But I want to bring in our legal expert, Irv Miller, who has been watching this trial with us throughout all these months. Irv, step in if you wouldn't mind. You had kind of called this. You said about 24 months is what you would have expected. Tell us what you walked away from today.
I walked away from a very conscientious judge that knows the law, that took the government's position about, well, there has to be deterrence. We have to try to discourage other public officials from doing this, but I'm not giving them home confinement. It's a public corruption case. Even with all the letters and all the good deeds, it still is the appropriate sentence, 24 months. You know, when you have the government asking for 10 years originally and then 8, that's pretty scary. Yeah. So his lawyers did a great job in putting together a mitigation package to present to this judge with hundreds of letters from very reputable people, and I think she did the right thing. Ed
Burke is still up on the 25th floor. We're awaiting him to come down here with his legal team. There's a chance that we may hear from him or them here in the following minutes. We're going to keep an eye on the podium and the elevator banks here at Dirksen. One key element on cases like this in federal court is contrition. When the individual, the defendant, apologizes, shows remorse. In this case, while Ed Burke did say he was sorry generically for what his family had to go through, he never apologized for the crime itself. How do you think that factored in?
Major, because there's actually 3 legal words: acceptance of responsibility. That's what's in the statute. That's what the judge was looking for. He didn't accept responsibility, saying, yes, what I did was wrong. He apologized to his family, which is fine. But for legal purposes and in trying to make a judge give you a lighter sentence because you show some type of acceptance of responsibility, some contrition, some apologies, he didn't do that.
Today, the judge really went through her binder of hundreds of letters that were sent to her on behalf of those who knew Ed Burke, worked with Ed Burke, the beneficiary of his good deeds. I think a lot of skeptics were saying, you know, listen, he might have been a good guy, but this crime, which is one of the highest profile public corruption crimes in Chicago history, was going to weigh a little heavier. 24 months is what you forecasted. Why do you think the judge made that such a focus today?
I think she balanced the seriousness of the offense and the offender, the convicted felon that she had before her, who served 54 years in the city council, did a lot of good things, but yet did some really criminal things at the end of his career. The statements that he made about, you know, the cash register ringing. Politicians shouldn't be saying things like that. And the judge actually quoted that in her denying his a new trial over the weekend. That affected her. But so did all these letters of people that pointed out of charitable things that he has not done since he was indicted, but his entire life. and I think that had an effect on the judge.
On one of the recordings, we heard him using sort of a epitaph, a religious epitaph, and on one hand you have that Ed Burke, and on the other hand you have a man who had 3 clergy in the crowd behind him today. They talked about him being an older man, should that factor in, but the U.S. Attorney's Office saying he committed these crimes that he's been convicted of, 13 of them in his 70s. Really some sticky wickets Judge Kendall had to work through.
This was a tough case for a judge, and fortunately, we have a seasoned, intelligent judge that knows what a case is worth. A lot of judges don't know the value of a case with respect to guilt and not guilty and sentencing. And I think she did a great job in this case. I have nothing but good things to say about the way she handled this case, as opposed to some other judges that we see in the press these days. But I think she came up with the right decision for the right reasons.
A lot of people might be looking at this number 24 months and we think about what Blagojevich got or what Verdoliak got. Does this, all things considered, every case is different, this holds water for you?
This does. I mean, this being an appropriate sentence, but for somebody his age with his background, to even do 24 days in jail, let alone 24 months, that's pretty significant. He's going to, if the Bureau of Prisons agrees with the judge, he'll go to the prison camp at Oxford. There's a max security there and a prison camp. The prison camp doesn't even have a wall around it.
Very light, and it's right not far from his home in Wisconsin.
That's what I hear. Yes. So, but he's believe me, he's not going to have a private room, and he's going to be waking up every day at 7:30. He'll be given a job to do, and nobody has anything good to say about the food in the prison Bureau of Prisons. So he's not going to have a soft life, even though it's not what you call a major-looking penitentiary situation.
There were hundreds of examples, people writing letters on his behalf, the judge saying she's never seen anything like that. The U.S. Attorney, Irv, had an interesting line. They said, you can't compile a lifetime of goodwill and bank it as credit and then use it for a larger crime. You can't, sort of scale it out that way. This really was a case of a lot of hard contrasts.
And the judge commented on that. And she realized that, no matter how great his life was, how many charitable events he did, he still committed public corruption. And she didn't hesitate to give him a prison sentence, and I think she did the right thing.
Irv Miller, thanks so much. Stick around here. We're going to continue throughout the afternoon just to kind of paint the picture for you. Once again, Ed Burke remains up on the 25th floor just about 40 minutes after being sentenced to 24 months. He will report in mid-September. This $2 million fine, very significant according to Judge Kendall. His family is with him upstairs. There is some indication that he and certainly possibly his lawyers will also be speaking here in the next few minutes. We're going to stay down here at Dirksen and let you know anything that develops. If that does happen, of course, Jim and Marie will bring that back to you. For now, live at the Dirksen Federal Building, Chris Tye, CBS 2 News.
Chris and Irv Miller, many thanks. I want to talk about this remark that Ed Burke made in court today. He addressed the courtroom saying, quote, "I have been blessed to have a wonderful family and friends, a great career, and I am sorry to see it end like this. The blame for this is mine and mine alone. I regret the pain and sorrow I've caused family and friends. I ask for compassion and mercy. Whatever time God has decided to leave me on this earth, I'd like to spend as much of it with my devoted wife, children, and grandchildren."
We have much more ahead on the sentencing of former Alderman Ed Burke. We're expecting statements, as you heard from Chris, from both prosecutors and the defense at any moment. So our cameras are up and rolling, and we will bring you those as soon as they happen.